Hello, see people. See people. Inherent rising slash raising. Inherent neutral God. God is an algebraic variable that is manifest within as the identity of relationship that the 26 sounds, identities of sounds of the English language have to themselves. It is necessary to speak about it that way. For example, in relationship to the cell body, the cell nucleus, and the cell wall. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police form, I'm not a lawyer. Intersime, I have a Bachelor of Arts, double major, communications and English arts. The way in parts. The sciences share an identity that is in relationship to correlation nature, where there are offensively uses of words like evidence and like perfection as victims, never having fathomed what a semi-ancient human fact-cheating nature breaching method engineered unfathomable to perpetually increasingly exploit, even though it would be self-value, the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, as nature demonstrating the loss, the illness, from it as the value of our fact, the quality of our fact-cheating nature. So to get to the solution is to use each season get better. The spring, see people, raising slash rising, inherent neutral God. This is a variable in relationship to the identity of the body of forever. Just like an identity of yourself is onto all the identities of parts of your body, individually grouped together, all the systems of it. This is everything has a complete slash semi-nature relationship to what will only stay complete. And that is relevant to where and how has and how that's the value of that semi-nature relationship that we have. This is why we are simultaneously grouped value identity of volume and species identity of volume. As that volume simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously three ways. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, inherently, actively, progressively. That is also why and how, in relationship to how we are individual grouped, sexes, ages, areas, etc., and altogether species by volume. This is also why the earth is flat and round at the same time. This is also why and how the earth is round, but we could still measure what is level. This is also in relationship to phenomena where and how they could measure tangentials in relationship to slopes. They could use what we do know and in relationship to what we don't know, and from different perspectives. And we can measure what we don't know. What we do, we can find out the answer. Is also why and how we look at the time. From active now, we know there's an extent we know is real, and there's an extent we don't know. But we're aware it's still real. We just don't know we don't know about it. In the active. Simultaneously, that is value as what is the order value, the order of the finite, which is inherent, for example. The point is, for the spring, We need to use all the seeds we have, but not like science, perfect. We're not going to mess up. We're going to have everyone work together to make more seeds. Each climate is supposed to do different ones. And so, in other words, you have to get to care of we go by what is perfection. You want to do what is going to be good for your grandkids, if you want to care about anyone now, yourself. You want to go what is going to be not just temporary positive. Temporary positive could still be criminal ceaseless nature. For example, what people would make positive and negative treatments in relationship to the breaching method that forced roles with sick identities of evil in an identity of negative value nature progression. That was the breaching method employed in phases for perpetual term, not just long term. It was there and here sickly distinctly to keep how sickly non-distinctly discern the surface values of the identities of nations that were defending themselves individually, grouped and together. Before that, latter semi-ancient nations had themselves been in effect defending themselves individually, grouped and together. And before, since before that was in modern nations, religious messengers. That was in latter semi-ancient times. The quality of the method of science, the method of understanding our human fact, human nature, the identity of what is going to cause inventions to work or not in relationship to itself. Its identity of relationship to itself, the value of that increasingly. Is also going to have those inventions and things further positive or negative. So, for example, the spring is a season. This is the only time you can plant things. There are exceptions. Everything, there are exceptions, and exception in nature are in demonstration with everything. Of this one identity that is truth, it is also true always and has exceptions at the same time. And what that is, as everything is at the same time, in demonstration of its identity of the relationship to itself and the value of that perpetually increasing. But now we're at value nature systems tactically ulterior from its, and where and how we have to by its we'll use our fact keeping nature. See, each identity of the ground location was employed to entertain as victims what they were trained to entertain also through juxtaposed natures of all kinds of victim reactions at once. An identity of negative value nature, progression acts, natures, everyone had to respond to all kinds of ways as fact-keeping nature, and as fact-keeping imposition upon, again, through juxtaposed natures of impositions. Everyone missing how. The response is everyone's forced to be knaves in, positive and negative treatments, time achievements, identity treatments. That can't be defended and tell. And they can't be fact treatment defended. It can't be identity treatments, value treatments. It would show and afford correlation to understand American history as it was meant to be told in relationship to that breaching organized crime method using human fact treatment nature. That means using human identity, which nature is, as value and as nature at the same time, as a quality of diffusion, as an increasing identity of volume, as the identity of the body of forever, is increasing as logic reveals, but not using faith. Value G, word, letter / value G. This is how the ancients would teach. There are proofs of this. So, but this is a method by this. There are 5 orders of judgment. Sequence true before the order of the finite. The order of the finite. The order of what is active. The order of what is progressive. Invisible but still discernible identity of volume, as value as nature, nature as value, and identity as volume, as this complete nature, as a semi-nature, but as the value of that too, which is completed not by ourselves, but by our value nature systems. Identity of relationship to itself as everything at once is itself. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously in demonstration of it. The invisible but still discernible. Identity of the body of forever. So, we know that every modern nation is in this trap and made suits and ties counters to it, needed to simultaneously defend precedents and statutes and roles. This is kept, no matter how powerful any leader will get or could be. If you have all states, areas, locations, sciences further, simultaneously all databases, overt criminal enterprises, all bonded originally. When you think of one way, we would have exploited that. Every identity, ground, location, only capable of valuing hurt. Each position of correlation nature's means by it. Correlation, the identity of correlation means there is not one exception denied. Real science is led by what is true and is also as every exception not denied, the slightest exception. Time not valued. See, the time was valued, the time the human fact cheap in nature suffers an illness. So this is also how we are individual grouped in together. So the same way they made the victim branches of government of every modern nation individually grouped in together victims, they backed them into reactions of it and roles with it. Everyone speaking through other people, then defending that. Too late. Never fathoming. Same way the overt criminal enterprises, mostly furthered by what has the branches semi and them semi and the private semi at the same time. Everyone bonded natures of self-valued roles, sequence shifts, and subsequent valued database relationships since before computers, only capable of maintaining everyone further and further needing to hide life aggressions from each formal position of fact cheap nature, let alone and of identity of the law relationships. Further and further self-valued this way. This is exploiting the identity of volume we are, humanity. Now, so in other words, it's not, in other words, so we not just mean stack, but in other words, we're coding the density People like to use coding. Now, we're coding the density, one that will be unbreakable, led by imperfection, because because we have something that is that can be that is tangential relationship to a process that can reveal how to reveal evolution's fruits and gifts. This is by the order of what is the order of sequence truth since before physics was generated. And as one identity of order that never went away, but it just is how it is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously also that way, while it is generating exceptions and exception nature to that, where it is now temporary also. It is temporary / lasting. Identity of volume, the identity of the as value as nature / nature as value, simultaneously. We'll examine this. The English will reveal to teach this. So we have to change everything. So we have to it's ridiculous not to realize. See how small space is, too big or too small, or unfathomed, means out of nowhere. Look how small when you see things from the distance in every nation. And see now, if you try to say, "Oh, we're going to focus on this nation," you still have each nation a victim of what hurt, and still hurts. Not one modern nation not hurt by it, even when they're helped by it. It keeps a fact-cheaping nature illness that can't afford all that is simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively capable of free speech. See, we don't have free speech. And we have them originally and still needing to pretend other because their roles with what was entrenched here and there since before our founding parents and all the nations that were the surface colonization of this nation's parents were even born. It was maintenance to identity of ground relationships, individually grouped in together, roles self-valued, each age of fact-cheaping nature, kept needing to self-value sequence shifts that were our breaching method employed. As a breaching method that is a bonded relationship through all other natures of it. No one realizing it, because that was self-valued. And this is why and how we have things like poverty, which is deeper and sicker, as per a breaching method. Per a breaching method using human fact-cheaping nature styles. Manifest blaming on other things, others themselves, even when correctly there, mixing in, doing it wrong. And then defenses of that were already employed to hurt other people. Those are fronts that keep the same stupid, worse than criminally incompetent, and delusions wrought. A, therefore B, value treatments, only heard through generations. The passions and emotions have a purpose. See, but we have everyone fake. They want to speak about other people's passions and emotions from backgrounds, relationship to the database, because they're putting everyone of each age of fact-cheaping nature in sustained ways. Fake conversations, influenced by it, people that don't even know each other. Also because of how names are used, identity is used. This is clear as day. day and night share this identity of volume. See, the computers work this way because it works this way. The identity as volume slash S. One identity of forever making more of its identity of volume by making more slash S of itself. Now the Trinity and Allah, these are terms of science. Heaven and hell. This is how we are temporary positive as a quality of diffusion that is in relationship to the five identity, the value of the five identities of order. Sequence true, the order of the finite, the order of what is active, the order of what is progressive, and the order of identities individual, grouped in simultaneous complete identity of relationship to itself, which is also the simultaneous relationship to the self. That's why it has, no matter who you are, if you get what you want, you're going to have clean water. You're going to have nice food. You're going to have nice... See, but now that to keep that truth was employed where each person was to react to it. And so to entertain the perfect world forsaken. The perfect answers we have to do. We do them not only halfway, but while we're doing all this time, we have no order here, we have no organization. So so I forgot what the complete idea of it, but the name was pass the ball. Regarding where I want the imaginary impositioned upon, to say the least, area of New York, and in communications with me, and so on, speaking about it because we're communicating, we're making a business together, so they can get. But these are things to counter these things for everyone at the same time, because otherwise it's not fair. So they stay unfair other way. That's not by accident. We have to admit that's where not just reliefs come from. That's where evolution's fruits and gifts come from. That comes from the liberation of the perfection of human fact-keeping nature. It is clear as day where and how. Emotions and passions. We have physical delusions that every modern nation stewards have. But that it's mixed with criminal foreign influences, uses of that, with their roles with precedents and statutes. Clear as day. Criminally foreign influence and delusions wrought. Now, who wants to debate other has to record it also. Has to self-value, which is recorded. Self-valued criminally foreign influence database relationships. As what some of what is evolved with what Jim Crow laws is about. See, we have opinions that are also self-valued roles with sequence shifts that were used to keep, and one sequence shifts to use to keep self-valued roles for other natures of things that people don't see the connections of themselves. Because people on a mass scale are sequence shifting natures. Worse than being liars. It's the sequence shifting roles that is most bridge to that which is most sick. Everywhere, the big world, small world, instead of being for us, there has to be maintenance and self-defense as roles, identity of negative value nature, progression, action, natures. Whole time everyone blaming other things other than themselves. Whole time more and more precedents influenced, fabricating evidences. This is a maintained outcome. They're preventing people free speech by having people perpetually, increasingly in backgrounds pretend us to fake locations, fake ties to people we have nothing to do with. All exceptions as actually recorded, investigators and investigations, criminally foreign influenced, predicate acts, delivery system acts, and methods, roles with overt criminal enterprises. Kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, identity thefts, frauds, worse than racketeering. What is that? Slavery. What is that? Jim Crow. What is that? Having to be a kid of any age, or an adult even, having to listen to someone's opinion about Jim Crow. Victims. Then they're going to defend what they say, though. You see what I'm saying? This is a trap. Distinctly and non-distinctly. Everyone could see when they have those crazy laws what it was about. Better by in other words, distinctly. That makes it more value. So this is why we have to make positive and negative treatments this way. 5 bonded identities of positive, where truth is an identity of positive. See, truths can be used as lies too. And so we have all kinds of A, therefore B. Then self-defenses of it. And then that invested, used, is what used and uses all remote private database relationships, interbranch database relationships, intercampuses of each age and nature, even interbranch, vertical and horizontal, sequence racketeering, identity racketeering, worse than that, worse than war crimes, against each individual group and together, against the human factor, against logic. So just like they could figure out the slope with physics, you could figure out what is true always, and as all exceptions, and as what's going to be positive to itself, as what's going to reveal evolution's fruits and gifts. It means one way redeems its native pure. So, for sure. So, so not only do we do that, if we can admit other nations that know that they have nuclear bombs, they know that have things, have them tell people again. Remember when nuclear bombs came out, everyone was scared. Look, we have to stop atomic bombs. Remember who wanted one person to die? These are identities of nations that are reliant upon keeping the other nation shown needs to hurt each other because what is fluent through each already made precedents and statutes, self-value, only capable of defending that need to hurt, and breaching screened what they do against, well, while they pretend to be patriotism natures, everyone. Fake sides of parties. Fake sides of good and bad. Opinions about other people, delusions raw, formally, informally, in collusion, not by accident, originally and still. So we have means to afford, just for the identity of the ground stewards, including the people who own the business, the private, even the public. It's still not, the medical locations. We just have to claim them too. What claims them not poverty has to self-value poverty. It has to self-value contrast to which is worse than forsaken. Has to simultaneously blame that, pretend it's other than that. Has to simultaneously, offensively, self-value worse than obfuscated what American history is about, which is about the fact-cheating nature, torture of, and slavery of our founding parents' fact-cheating nature. That means especially evidences who they hurt most with that. And that's it's all locations, areas, and states. So this is clear as day. They have research bodies. They have each age of fact-cheating nature, everyone speaking to others, where they keep it originally still. This was here sophistication since before our founders, who chopped down the fake branches of government, so to speak. But they had to leave them up north and south with slavery still. Big deal, you take down slavery, the wording and play the thing, that's still playing though. And it's still leveraged, everyone blaming other things other than themselves, defending that. Breaching method employed, self-value. That was, when you guys think that stopped being exploited? There's not a nation you could point to. That was designed to keep everyone. It's like a machine. Hurt them. They hurt them. Blame. The reactions lock into place. Walls with that identity of negative value, nature of aggression, nature of self-value. Can't defend that and use correlation by what our each modern nation's history is really about. All locations, areas, and states forced to collusion, criminally foreign influenced, in layers, bonded. And no one realized. So they took everyone from the sophistication necessary to discern the difference between God. This is also because its function as the seventh letter / value. Now this is also music science, which comes before music theory. It's juxtaposed with music theory. But we have words like theory, inter-science, inter-religions, victim, awe, shock and awe, what it never fathomed, from off every location, originating still further and further, rolls on off it, where we are fact-cheating nature, like a virus. So, vaccines. So we must prepare for things and so we can make the means to afford this. We could save a lot of money too with the seeds. We put it all to what is going to be, for the government. Why do we have taxes? We can relieve it. We can relieve, and we can make everything, because we're going to have big problems because we have no economy. We have the phenomenon of big problems at once, all the nations, so we can finally agree. And then we could just stack those means. There is no, it's even worse when you have, still just as bad and worse or worse differentially. But it could be better if you do it. In other words, getting consensus, agreement to go back, to do better, lift standards together. Nations individually grouped together. Themselves, they're here, divided, where it counts. United, where it counts. Ill unity is in the way of ill unity and fake sides of correlation nature's trinity. We don't have mandated law followed, and we have offensively private database tied stewards in collusion with the branches of government. For example, originally still hundreds of nations and overt criminal enterprises private, keeping them what can't defend themselves and their relationships to the World Trade Center and to Washington, D.C. and us at the same time, in relationship to where and how people need to speak as each age of fact human nature, where and how the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the interbranch are but then completely by themselves, using themselves. All investigators, investigations, and perception into branch recorded, involved, influenced by their roles, with self-value recorded crime methods, interbranch individually grouped together, like switching names, forging names, switching sequences. The needs to do this is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, tied to how a whole bunch of nations have had shared policing with us, with families, intercities, worse than interstates through time, like a DeMorrow family, like people with Central Connecticut State University, were further recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved. A Kerr family, Officer Jerry Miller, further involved with child offenders with the campuses. Now this has been through, these are people, the same ones, are further involved with World Trade Center predicate acts, with various natures of courts involved with them, which is relevant because they're involved with the investigators, the branches of government individually grouped and together. Not alone, I'm saying that as victims, but as victim predators. And that's how they're used remotely. And that is clear as day. Humanity pray. See, everyone missed how it is. This is sickly, distinctly maintained. The outcome /S. For example, in relationship to it. Too, what kept and keeps correlation nature from it while pretending other, which is where and how. Same thing, people pretending to be against prejudice and stuff like that. All sides of it, in collusion, where and how we have all identities of the law. Originally still, delusions raw, coming before an influence of factual digital styles. Sciences abridged. See, people, our nature doesn't want this. All the geniuses, we have people that know so much about plants. We have people that know so much about soils. Connect them, the elements of those soils with their lost, what revealed these seeds. We have this window every spring. Boxing. We have almost unfathomably impossible, almost impossible to fathom possibility of countering. How we have so many people stacked, reliant upon food, systems and such like that. And then the farmers themselves, even though they're still not, because this is not nature just drawn. So it's going to draw more problems. It's It's going to cause more negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. It's going to draw people to the forsaken world, self-valued, as the only people standing to answer the question /S. They want to keep saying, "Oh, do you have any questions?" Free speech, separate me and the others they did through time attached to fake words. WFSB, please fix the fake news. CNN, please fix the fake news of them. Who disbelieves? There are various natures of courts since before the World Trade Center involved with Central Connecticut State University on and off it. Dozens of people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved in his defending capacities with people leading up to that in the 2006 case, and since recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with relevant predicate acts, fake conversations with me. Now these are various natures of courts, judges, and prosecutors and their family members with the foreign, with the former director of the FBI, with dozens of people with the Wethersfield Police Department. All kinds of predicate acts, roles, and cases. Roles with predicate acts, methods, and cases against all kinds of people. That's what's actually recorded. They've been just fabricating fake video, fake recorded audio as victims. So we have to get them from the names forging and switching. We have to get as victim predators, though. It's not accident by accident, too. They have the person of a serial killer, and they have the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso. Also with strangers in the Faenza family and tied to them. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with on-off WFSB involved predicate acts. And on-off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices with them. And on-off where they said the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso was. As strangers, they also made confessions about a Dillon family. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with my new and past neighbors. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by strangers involved with confessions about untimely deaths. And that brought up a principal child defenders campus. That was also at first force with more then and now actually recorded. Also relevant to them as with one of the times they've been fabricating audio and video and rolls with that. And wire crimes simultaneously, like WFSB attached me to fake conversations with them, fake words with them. Now they also did this and rolls with people on off Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University from my town. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with investigators and investigations, and with dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court and other Hartford courts, involved in other courts in Connecticut and on all the state judicial branch offices, with all these people with connected predicate acts, illusions, roles, roles with actually recorded originally and still as evidence. Criminal uses of investigations and of investigators, of the logic and of the identities of each identity, the ground, stewards, opinion nature, conviction nature, legal nature, originally criminally foreign influence, delusions, wrought. So we have means that are unfathomed. Imagine all the people in the suburbs. One time sending in 3, just even if we only do it one time, which would be more than this, the way we do it right. But 3 yards of soil. You know what I'm saying? Posts. Vaccines, posts. I thought most. So nations could agree to stack water for each other. And what's the point of just stacking water? Because then it could drip down. You can make an identity of the ground, identity of relationship to itself, the identity that causes inventions, not just to work or not just to be further positive or negative or not, but to be the sort, but to be the conduit of evolution's fruits and gifts here. Its means here, native pure vaccines. It's just like if you wanted to think, a lot of Native Americans, a lot of ways they would not forgive, with their right not to forgive, because us for forcing them not to be capable of defending an identity ground relationship, to reach to water. The human body of volume owes Native Americans, for example, water lifted for them so it could trickle down, spread around, have extended all different contexts of life. So we can reveal humanity to and as an identity of negative value nature, an identity of positive value nature progression, acts and natures. But that's by its value system, which is again tied to our fact sheet nature that has nothing to do with these value systems. It's all right, you want to talk about it. Talk what's an algorithm. But don't deny this algorithm, /S, the algorithm. So each of the identities of the letters has. And say, what's an identity of a letter? It's a letter / value. And that's where value is nature and nature is value simultaneously. And with the / nature / value. Because each person is a little bit more of a semi-nature of a complete identity of volumes. Complete identity of relationship to itself. This semi-identity of volume is further positive or negative relationship to the identity of the body of forever. That is a simultaneous identity of relationship to what is positive and negative simultaneously. Same way your identity is this way because of that. A simultaneous identity of relationship to positive and negative simultaneously. There are 5 bonded, invisible but still discernible, sequence / simultaneous nature identities of positive. The Trinity was revealed to teach about the identity of the sciences shared, to teach about correlation nature, about logic. So science reveals that that it is most scientific to refer to the identity of the body forever as that which is demonstrably the identity of relativity, and why and how. Slope could be figured out in physics. So is the identity, the value to the order of sequence of identity true? Is the value to the order of sequence true? The value to the order of physics? Is the value to the order of metaphysics? Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. It is the value to the order of identity. And so its identity of volume /S is why and how computers have to work that same way. They have a volume of memory, stored information, volume of memory that works with, active tasks. have have memory that deals with the speed of the active task, the depth of ability, extent of mastery over so don't waste the spring boxing. I tell each thing of soul. Boxing's behold. So in other words, there's nothing good about bonding people and revealing our identity out of nowhere further as nations that have nuclear weapons. I'm saying by bonding that, and then, in other words, who would not like that? That's value too. Because we admit that they're not going to like that too. When we say, well, look, this is what we're trying to do. Then what do we have to stack on it? What do we have to do for you guys? You guys have the obligation to do that. All you fake sides nations in relationships, as our species identity evolving, you don't want it there. We have to move like all the men are one father, and all the women are one mother, and the bottoms are too low, and the systems are criminally flawed and influenced, and everyone was blaming on other things other than themselves. What caused that, and what keeps that, and all the kids are stuck roles. We need passions and emotions, true. We have behavior predators. We have psychopaths. Where we have logic experts. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. This is also in relationship to the extent of the sequence shifts and styles of natures of sequence shifting and sequence shifting motivations. We'll examine. But you gotta respond. So come on, vaccines. And this is how we're gonna fund it too. With the pamphleteer. We'll make the business. This is a business model. No one's gonna own the money. And we're gonna agree. We're gonna set up the method where the money's just gonna go. So the pamphleteer is not gonna make enough to fix what I'm going to draw, which is part of the unfathomable. And with a method that we get the nations, we could all do this together. As it only feels like game /S, evolution science. So we could afford. We change the zoning laws, go away, or something like that. We could afford means come out of nowhere. They don't have to pay for anything. We could afford to build other people forsaking that gaming for us. That's evidence no matter where you are. We have the pathology of suburban homeless from here to Russia. Since before cars, that pathology of homelessness was forced by a breaching organized crime method against our founding parents, torture of them, where it counts, how it counts, fact-cheating nature, slavery of them. No one would entertain slavery otherwise. Where someone might pretend other, in other words, that was forced pathology, sick people. What caused that is tactical degradation of the actual method by the long word and short words of the value of our species, where it is increasing as the identity of the body of forever, as its positive or negative relationship to itself. So this is what I see through as native dreams. It's correlation. It is an identity of relationship to the ground that is really by our means. It is mana. It is make America native again, which is, the president says, MAGA, make America great again. Now, so we have to try harder. You have to do mana. And you have to do it as a species identity of the volume, native pure. So you have to say, from outside of the sanctions, the fact Chibi nature is formal. From the fact Chibi nature business-wise. We'll make businesses as victims, too. But that's if they're not going to perpetually, they're going to stay perpetually roles, preventing how individuals, groups, and together how we don't have freeze, even women and little girls. You think one little girl who was born into think a teenager girl who has to go live in a stacked apartment. No matter who you are, no matter if you take people of any ethnicity and you stack them people like that in these systems like that, this is logic racketeering. Worse than that. Worse than criminal incompetence. Logic. Worse than behavior predators. Need to pretend other. Because they've been behavior predators. Need to pretend other. So emotions and passions have a relationship to 5 identities of order simultaneously. And that's with sequence true. That's with our identities not. They're stacking databases with predicate acts roles, basically, and sequence shifts roles, identity thefts, frauds, worse than that, racketeering roles, and then further on off those relationships. I just watched a video the other day. I'm trying to find it, but I don't know. They got the kids. The FCCs don't have the kids. Oh, but this is a teacher. But they're on YouTube. You see what I'm saying? And he's trying to tell them there is, in other words, science reveals there is an identity bigger than infinity. Infinity is value as nature, and nature is value as nature / nature as value. And those are 3 semi-natures of one, as one identity of one. Just like the identity of a cell is 3 semi-natures, cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. So this body of value as its own identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that, of the actual body of the identity of the body of forever. Thank you. This is 60 minutes. 60 minutes we should love this video. So we'll learn coding, but we'll learn. We'll uncode what is already perfection, the perfect world. True always, as each exception at the same time. Boxing. Remind, boxing. Science is sharing identity. Shadow boxing is great for social distancing.